Hi, I'm Barry Kislowitz, back with another episode of Leadership Lenses, the mini podcast designed for principals, Rosh Yeshiva Menalim, and anyone else who wants to improve and enhance Jewish day schools and yeshivas. Today's dilemma comes to us from a principal whose school grew over 3 years from 500 students to 850 students. Now, to those of you out there who might be struggling with enrollment and seeing drops or stagnancy in your enrollment, this may sound like a dream come true. And I would say, for sure, if I had to choose between declining enrollment and exploding enrollment, I would choose the latter. But that doesn't mean that growing from 500 to 850 in just a few years doesn't have its set of unique and really challenging issues that come with it. The one issue that this principal turned to me about was when he had 500 students, maybe about 200 families, he had no problem knowing every kid in the school. Now, I was a principal head of school for a school of about 525 at largest. And I remember I could get every kid's name right, maybe not at like 7:45 in the morning before I had my coffee, but certainly by midday, I knew every kid, grade, where they were, who their siblings were, what their parents were up to. That's doable if you focus on it with 500. But when you hit 800, that's fundamentally impossible. And so this principal was saying, well, so there's a few levels here. One is, how do I create this sense of community and connection, everything I want to build there, once my school is so big that I can't handle everyone? Now, that's actually a larger topic we're going to save for another time. But the second thing he asked was just really simply, we're losing information about students. So when this year's third graders go next year into fourth grade, somehow or other, the teachers are supposed to be briefed, things are supposed to get passed on, and things seem to be getting missed. A kid has an allergy that the teacher somehow didn't hear about, a learning need, an accommodation, a particular family situation. Somehow or other, that is not getting passed on. And even more than that, over the course of the year, different people seem to know different things about the family. So our admissions director might know some things, the principal of our lower school might know some things about the younger kids and the family, but the principal of the middle school doesn't know those things. And we're kind of getting this, spread of information that's very uneven and doesn't allow us to be on top and connected with our families and our kids the way we used to. So a couple episodes ago, I mentioned something called an SIS, a student information system. You may have one in your school called Parent Locker. You may have Veracross. There's about 50 other versions you might have. And for these purposes, it doesn't really matter which one of these you've implemented, assuming for the moment that you have implemented this kind of database. Now, some people call this an SIS, a student information system. I actually prefer to call it a CRM, a client relationship management system, which is what it's typically called in the organizational and business world. Why that switch? Well, what I see in most schools is when they take something like Veracross or Parent Locker and they implement it, they see it fundamentally as a way to track student grades, right? So the teacher puts the grades in there, the parents can check them, you can generate report cards, or perhaps grades and discipline. When there's a behavior issue, a lateness, cutting class, whatever it is, that gets logged in Veracross, and so everyone knows and we follow up on it. That is a valid and important use of your system, but it falls so far short of what you can do with one of these databases. And if you think of it as a student information system, I find that you're liable to make much less use of it than if you think of it as a client relationship management. So what is client relationship management? The truth is this has been happening particularly in sales-oriented companies well before there were these technology platforms. Back in the old days, you had a salesman who was sitting with a Rolodex on his desk with every customer's name in it, and anything that salesperson learned about the customer, they would write down on that customer's little Rolodex index card. So I might learn about the family. I might learn about the kids. I might learn the preferences, the struggles, whatever it was would go on that card. And when I went to go out and call on a customer, or when I picked up the phone to a customer, first thing I do is turn to my Rolodex to that card, see what's marked. Some people even had, color coding systems, this in green, this in red. And I was equipped when I went out to that customer to know everything about them, everything about our relationship. Now, I cared about them. I valued our relationship, but I also knew as a salesperson that if I'm selling to 1,000 different customers, there's no way I'm going to remember in detail unless I have a system. Fast forward to our day, 2025, and none of this obviously needs to be on paper, index cards, or Rolodex. All of it can be contained in the technology platforms, most of which you already have in your school. So imagine this for a moment. Take Veracross, ParentLock, or whatever it is. But don't think about it in terms of tracking grades or tracking student behavior or performance or even student growth, all of which are great. Think of it as having an additional layer of being that one repository of information for everything you as a principal, teacher, head of school, guidance counselor know about a kid or a family. And then you can establish a basic procedure that anyone dealing with this kid, anyone calling this family, does one thing first. They open up that family and that student's record in your CRM. They have it in front of them. They can read whatever notes happened in the last few interactions, whatever has been flagged there. And when they have the phone call, they take about 30 seconds to quickly type in, or they have the email, they take about 30 seconds to quickly type in, here's what happened, here's what I learned, and they can flag it. And you have that information sitting there, clear, concise, in one place. Now, a lot of these systems will be fully integrated within your email and other platforms. So when a teacher emails them, they can email from within the system, or the email they'll send from your regular school system will get logged in your CRM. So it's all there. Now, as a principal, you're probably thinking, okay, great, it's all there. But I know that having it all there is absolutely not enough, because many of my teachers, my principals, or even me myself, we'll call the family. We'll see the family in passing, and we won't think to open that CRM. Or some of the issues I mentioned before, right? The fourth grade teacher just got a third grader. It's now October, and the teacher has totally forgotten about that kid's learning accommodations, allergies, special family situation, because they were overwhelmed with information as school was starting. It was orientation week. They were getting lots of updates and lots of briefings. And 2 months later, they just lost track of it. And as I work with schools, I would actually say that maybe 50% or more of parent complaints of issues that blow up are simply because someone forgot something about the kid or the family. Think about it, right? How often have you gotten an angry parent call because something wasn't known, passed on, or was forgotten? Your CRM can eliminate almost all of those, because in addition to being a repository of information, essentially every CRM that exists today allows you to do something called automating workflows. What this means, we'll put it in really simple terms, is you can set it up, or you can hire your IT person to set it up, so that whenever event A happens, that triggers response B from the system. So for example, whenever we return from post-Chagim, post-Sukkot vacation, the system triggers emails to every teacher with a kid who has learning accommodations, reminding them of those accommodations. Every time our director of admissions, director of development, or guidance counselor updates something about the family, something's going on with the parents, the grandparents, aunts and uncles, the system is triggered to automatically send email updates to the teachers and to the head of school, to the principal. It sounds maybe a little bit too good to be true, And it does take some time to set it out. You kind of have to take that Amelia Bedelia approach, right? You have to specify every single step because the CRM isn't a staff member. It's not thinking. It's not making judgment calls. You have to specify in every detail, every step. Now that might take you a day, 2 days. But imagine if what you do this summer is take your CRM, list for yourself, and maybe you do this together with your admin team, or maybe you do this together with the head of your PTA or parent council, the top 10 things that the school forgets that frustrate parents. And for each of those 10 things, you figure out how and when to send reminders to teachers. And you set those all up in the system. So when you walk into next year, yeah, you still want to keep everything in your head. You still want to know the kid. You still want to know the families. Absolutely. But you have a backup also. You have something automatically sending you reminders about a learning issue, an upcoming birthday, an upcoming special event in the community that certain families are involved in. And it fundamentally offloads that element of thinking and reminding and planning from your head as a principal or from the teachers' heads so that they can focus on teaching. And then at the end of the day, they get a pop-up reminder. Hey, remember so-and-so gets extra time on the test. Remember so-and-so needs a parent phone call every time this happens. It can do away with a vast, vast number of the mistakes and errors that we make that frustrate parents. Now, it's a technical level, and I know a lot of us are really motivated to avoid those parent complaints because they can be painful and frustrating for us on the other end, right? I still remember like the trepidation of picking up the phone every time. This was when we had desk phones, so it looked like this, right? Picking up the phone and just kind of wondering what the other person on the other end would be upset about today, right? But it goes beyond that, right? It's not just about avoiding these things that upset, frustrate parents. If we take the time to ensure we remember all these things, that's our way as a school of demonstrating to parents and children that they matter. The kid's birthday matters. The kid's allergies matter. The rough time that the parents are going through matters. If they lose a grandparent or someone's ill, all of that matters. Now, it does matter to us. We are always thinking about that. We're in this profession because we care. But when your school gets to a certain size, you can't implement that caring on a day-to-day detailed level without some support. And a lot of us resist going this route because it feels impersonal, right? I don't need a system. I don't need a CRM to tell me to be nice to kids, to remember our birthday, to do this or that. But you do, right? We set reminders for things that are important to us. On my phone, I might set a reminder to call my parents, to follow up with something with my own kids. I love them. I care for them. I want to be there for them. But my day gets busy. And if I don't plan for it, if I don't set something up to remind me, I know I might not do it. And so why take that chance? Multiply this by about 800 and you have the needs for an 800 kids school. If you spend the time setting up this kind of system, my prediction is that you can eliminate at least half of those misses, at least half of those instances of forgetting within the year, and that eliminating those will go an exceedingly, even surprisingly long way towards building the sense of community, connection, and care that we're all striving to build in our schools. That's my opinion anyways. If you agree, disagree, want to hear about something else, we'd love to hear from you. As always, you can reach us at www.kislowitzconsulting.com, on LinkedIn under Barry Kislowitz or Kislowitz Consulting, or on Substack at Leadership Lenses. Look forward to hearing from you and have a wonderful day leading.